Are you saying that Devin Moore shot 3 people in the head because of a video game?
What we're saying is that Devin Moore was, in effect, trained to do what he did. He was given a murder simulator. He bought it as a minor. He played it hundreds of hours, which is primarily a cop-killing game. It's our theory, which we think we can prove to a jury in Alabama, that but for the video game training, he would not have done what he did.
In this video, I will be discussing transgressive video games, exploring whether they're a bit of non-serious fun or if they can have a damaging consequence on the outside world. Video gameplay can include transgressive practices in which players act in ways meant to annoy, punish, harass, and harm other players. Video games often include deviant or upsetting content, which can include excessive violence, murder, theft, prostitution, sex, and nudity. Video games are defined as electronic games that involve interaction with the user interface to generate visual feedback on a video device such as a TV screen or computer monitor. Gamification is a common practice employed in video games. It can be applied to any activity in which people are engaged and can help drive desired behaviours, turning users into players. It is known to increase engagement and is a popular trend that is expected to continue to grow. Gamification leverages game mechanics such as points, levels, badges, rewards, characters, stories, leaderboards, and achievements, alongside game design to increase interest and ultimately drive engagement. Gamification techniques are intended to increase people's natural desires for socializing, learning, mastery, competition, achievements, status, or simply their response to the framing of a situation as game or play. Early gamification strategies use rewards for players who accomplish desired tasks or competition to engage players. Types of rewards include points, achievement badges or levels, the filling of a progress bar, or providing the user with virtual currency, making the rewards for accomplishments tasks visible to other players, or providing leaderboards are ways of encouraging players to compete. Game design elements are the basic building blocks of gamification applications. Among these, typical game design elements are performance graphs, meaningful stories, avatars, and teammates. Points are basic elements of a multitude of games and gamified applications. They are typically rewarded for the successful accomplishment of specific activities within the gamified environment, and they serve to numerically represent a player's progress. One of the most important purposes of points is to provide feedback. Points allow the player's in-game behaviour to be measured, and they serve as a continuous and immediate feedback as a reward. Deborah Lupton first identifies this in her 2016 book, The Quantified Self. It describes the use of self-tracking technologies, a movement promoting self-knowledge through numbers. Quantified self-practices come with the goal of improving performance. There is a wide variety of self-tracking technologies that allow everyday activities to be turned into games by awarding points or monetary value to encourage people to compete with friends. Avatars are visual representation of players within the game or gamification environment. Usually they are chosen or even created by the player. Avatars can be designed quite simply as a mere pictogram, or they can be complexly animated, three-dimensional representations. Their main formal requirement is that they unmistakably identify the player and set them apart from other human or computer-controlled avatars. Avatars allow the player to adopt or create another identity and to become part of a community. In recent years, avatars have become so lifelike you can customize features such as hair, skin, lips, and eye colour. You can also add intricate details such as tattoos and piercings, as well as customize their outfits. You can truly have your avatar be a reflection of yourself or how you want to present yourself to fellow game players. Other slightly more controversial customizable features include weight, breast, or even penis size, which you can enlarge. Heavily sexualized characters increase self-objectification amongst adolescent players, regardless of their gender. They also promote unrealistic ideals of both women and men, six-packed ribbed abs, tiny waists, and mounted by enormous breasts and big lips, which even as a video game avatar can still be harmful to impressionable young people. With the formation of new online identities, technology allows us to transgress global boundaries of time and space and explore new sexual possibilities with our online personalities, such as cybersex, marital infidelity, and adult dating. In Giddens' 1992 book, The Transformation of Intimacy, he explores many of the dominant interpretations of the role of sexuality in modern culture. Sexuality as we know it today is a creation of modernity. A transformation of users' sexual practices and views on long-term relationships, monogamy, and other romantic ideals occur, which can have an overwhelming impact on life outside of gameplay. Storylines inspire and motivate players, particularly if the storyline is in line with their personal interests. As such, stories are an important part in gamification applications, as they alter the meaning of real-world activities by adding a narrative. They also serve a purpose for explaining evil acts within gameplay. For example, in Grand Theft Auto 5, players have to torture a character to find out information in order to progress within the game. According to Marx, technology is a key driving force of history through the Industrial Revolution to the Digital Revolution. The Digital Revolution has fundamentally changed the way we perceive reality. Baudrillard coined the term hyperreality as an inability of consciousness to distinguish reality from a simulation of reality, especially in advanced societies. Baudrillard also refers to simulacra, defined as something that replaces reality with its representation, signs and symbols of culture and media. Construct perceived reality, becoming more real than the object itself. Video games have long been a focus for moral panic, with a question about their side effects including addictiveness, alleged links with real-world sexism and violence, and with almost a third of gamers being under 18, an increasing number of people are becoming concerned with graphic content in video games, inspiring violent behaviour in children and young adults. The World Health Organization has recently categorized gaming addiction as a mental health condition.
You want the full experience? You gotta find someplace private.
Interestingly, with every new incarnation of Grand Theft Auto, the higher realism it reached, the more controversial and transgressive its content became. The 2D universe first introduced players to extreme violence. The 3D universe allowed players to pay for the services of prostitutes to recover their health. Finally, in the HD sequels, missions in which the player must instigate a gang war to advance in the game were added, as well as interactive sex scenes, drunk driving, full frontal nudity, drug dealing, sexism, and torture. The video displays a scene in GTA 5 where the player is seen picking up a prostitute and driving to a remote location. Once there, the in-game prostitute offers different sexual services, escalating in-game currency. The scene quickly becomes very pornographic and depicts deeply misogynistic attitudes towards women, who are shown only in the game as sexual objects for men to abuse. Once finished, the player can kill them to redeem some of their money back. The next clip is a famous torture scene. Players have to torture a man into giving information which is vital to complete the mission. The man begs and cries out in pain, begging for the player to stop. Even more concerning is that the player themselves has to pick the tools in which to torture and inflict pain until he gives in.
Don't do it! Not the clips! No, no, no! I am cooperating!
Remember, no rushing.
In Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, users can participate in a mass shooting at a Russian airport. It is notably more graphic than any other level in the game, although the player is not forced to shoot anyone until they exit the airport. They are then forced to shoot FBI agents in order to complete the mission. To most people, this type of behaviour is unimaginable in real life, so why has it become so acceptable within game culture? Given constant exposure to, players can become numb to the sounds of screaming, gunshots, and the cruel acts they are committing within the game environment. The game as a whole shows a growing inclination to challenge the social norms we abide by in real life. The evidence for in-game violence breeding off-screen violence is surprisingly inconclusive. Kuttner and Olson concluded a $1.5 million study funded by the US Department of Justice on the side effects of video games on teenagers. In contrast to previous research, they studied children and families in real situations. The 2008 Grand Theft Childhood Study centres around the proposition whether gaming is a form of catharsis providing relief, a harmless pastime with friends, or whether it breeds violence. In their school-based surveys, Kuttner and Olson found that mature-rated, age 17+ video game play was common amongst young adolescents. 68% of boys and 29% of girls had at least one M-rated title amongst 5 games played a lot during previous 6 months. Among boys, games in Grand Theft Auto series were by far the most popular. Most of boys' top games, however, were sports or teen-rated fantasy games. Amongst girls, the Sim series was most popular, but Grand Theft Auto also claimed second place. The surveys also found correlations between violent gameplay and some common childhood problems. Boys who played any mature-rated game a lot had twice the risk of certain aggressive behaviours, for example, getting into fights, swearing, damaging property for fun, or problems at school, getting in trouble with a teacher, getting poor grades, at least one during the past year, compared to boys who play games with low age ratings. Amongst girls, the risk of problems was 3 to 4 times higher for those who played violent games compared to those who played other games. An 18-year-old man, Devin Moore, committed 3 acts of first-degree murder in the Fayette, Alabama police station in 2003. Moore killed 3 policemen after being booked on suspicion of stealing a car. He then fled in a highway patrol vehicle. Attorney Jack Thompson stated that Devin Moore was, in effect, trained to do what he did. He was given a murder simulator. This is a clip taken from the docudrama The Game Changers. It portrays the crimes committed by Devin Moore as part of its overall depiction of controversies caused by Grand Theft Auto. He bought it as a minor. He played it hundreds of hours, which is primarily a cop-killing game. It was a theory put forward to the jury in Alabama that, but for the video game training, he would not have done what he did. According to Moore's own statement, he lunged at Officer Arnold Strickland, grabbing his .40 caliber Glock automatic and shot Strickland twice, once in the head. Officer James Crump heard the shots and came running. Moore met him in the hallway and fired 3 shots into Crump, one of them in the head. Moore kept walking down the hallway towards the door of the emergency dispatcher. A suit filed by the families of the 2 victims claims that Moore acted out of a scenario found in Grand Theft Auto. The player is a street thug trying to take over the city. In one scenario, the player can enter a police station, steal a uniform, free a convict from jail, escape by shooting police, and flee in a squad car. In August 2005, Moore was convicted as charged. On October 9, 2005, he was sentenced to death by lethal injection. In conclusion, video games are a socially accepted leisure activity with friends, playing otherwise unrealistic scenarios, a fantasy outlet for most. However, in extreme cases, it is clear to see there is a link between transgressive acts and extreme video gameplay, a sort of learned behaviour. Players who appear unaffected by behaviours displayed in video games may still adopt attitudes embedded within the game. My final thought is that based on the increase of violence displayed from past versions of games until today, video games are only bound to become more transgressive to engage and stimulate users.